The Yatagan. The Yatagan was prominently used by elite infantry soldiers in Ottoman Turkey from the 16th to 19th centuries. Revered for its extreme lightweight and lethal forward curve, it was a quick and deadly slicer, while its strong tapered tip made it a powerful thruster. It also featured a unique yet practical pump that contained flared-out ears to prevent it from slipping from the hand in battle. A fierce and respected weapon, the Yatagan was most notably wielded by Suleiman the Magnificent, the longest-reigning sultan of the Ottoman Empire.
Bladesmiths, to see what kind of lethal damage your weapon will do, I'll take your Yatagan and deliver slashes and thrusts on this ballistics dummy. Dave, you're first. Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Let's do this.
I'm so nervous right now, and I'm just hoping my blade will perform well.
It's got bowels dropping out everywhere.
Let's talk about your weapon, Dave. It follows the feel of a Yatagan that's supposed to be light and deadly. The edge you have here is sharp, where it's curved in to lacerate. Your Yatagan will kill.
Thank you very much.
All right, Gabe, your turn. You ready?
Go nuts, man.
All right, Gabe. It is so light, it really feels like it's not there. It's almost scary. When I thrust, it penetrates easily and slashes down. Overall, sir, your blade will kill.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, this is the strength test. To test the strength of your weapon, I'll be chopping into these bones 6 times. Dave, you're up first.
Hacking bone is a very difficult thing to do with a thin edge. I'm aghast knowing what's going to be coming.
All right, David, that's a tough test. Those are very thick bones, but what we've got going on here is a lot of chipping and distortion on your blade. We've also got a major crack in your handle. It runs right up through the pins. All right, Gabe, your turn. You ready for this?
Go nuts.
Okay, Gabe, the convex edge you've got on here is pretty much the perfect edge for a test like this. Sharp and strong. I can feel just the smallest amount of a roll. Nicely done.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, next up, the sharpness test. For that, I'll give it to Doug.
Bladesmiths, to see if your blade is still sharp, I will take your weapon and slash through these silks. If your blade is still sharp, it should cut cleanly. If not, it may rip or tear, or worse, do nothing. Dave, you're up first. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Let's do this. All right, I love the balance of your blade. I like the way it curves in, but you can really feel the edges now. It's serrated. It hangs up with silk. But then on the last piece, just when it's nice and taut, you can lacerate and cut through it. Overall, your blade will still cut.
Thank you.
All right, Gabe, it's your turn. You ready?
I'm ready.
Let's do this. All right, Gabe, your blade is so light, you're barely like cutting through air. I glided through this, lacerated, and of course in the finishing cuts here, cut easily through that silk. It cuts. Good job.
Thank you very much.
Bladesmiths, you both created remarkable finale weapons, but in this arena of competition, there can only be one Forged in Fire champion. And that champion is... Gabe, congratulations. You are the Forged in Fire champion. Dave, please surrender your weapon.
It's exactly what I expected. It was very difficult testing, but I'm still the guy with the cracked edge and the broken handle.
Gabe, congratulations. You are the Forged in Fire champion and will be receiving a check for $10,000. Good job. I've never seen anybody less stoked about getting 10 grand in my entire life. Could you please present that weapon to the judges?
It feels great to be the Forged in Fire champion, but I'll do my celebrating behind closed doors. I felt like I was the underdog, but underdogs win sometimes, I guess.
The Indian two-handed sword. Emerging around the 17th century, this rare two-handed sword joined some of the most iconic bladed weapons produced in the Indian subcontinent. The long double-edged blade reached lengths of up to 5 feet and was so heavy, it required the wielder to use 2 hands for more accurate strikes. It also featured 3 brass globes positioned on the shaft that offered a more secure grip, as well as a counterbalance for the heavy blade. Despite its substantial size, the blade was designed to flex. By the mid-18th century, improved gunpowder technology spread throughout India, making the Indian two-handed sword obsolete.
Bladesmiths, this is the kill test. To see what kind of lethal damage your weapon will do, we'll take your sword and deliver killing blows on this boar carcass. Jonathan, you're up first. You ready?
Go for it.
All right, Jonathan, let's talk about your sword right here. First up, it's sharp. Definitely lacerated through easily. When wielding this weapon, there's a nice balance to it. Overall, your weapon, sir, will kill.
Thank you.
Ed, are you ready?
I am.
All right, Ed, let's talk about your weapon right here. First up, I like the leather wrapping that you did right here on the handle. It gives it a good grip. Your blade is a little bit on the heavier side, but upon the swing, it lacerates deeply into the carcass. It will kill.
Gentlemen, this is the dreaded bone chop. Remember, this test is all about what the bones do to your blades and not what your blades do to the bones. Ed, you're up first. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Well, Ed, it's all in one piece, but there is some chipping on the blade here.
Oh, shoot.
The sword itself is heavy. The handle is a bit big for my hand. All that being said, it held up relatively well. Well done.
Thank you.
Jonathan, you're up. You ready?
Hope so.
Well, Jonathan, it's a similar result. There is some edge chipping here as well. The handle being round on one of the hits did roll in my hand. Aside from edge chipping, held up very well. Well done.
Thank you. All right, gentlemen, to test the sharpness of your blade, I'll be cutting through these pumpkins. We'll take a look at those cuts, see how clean they are. Jonathan, you're up. Are you ready? Ready. So, Jonathan, you can see your blade has such a flexibility to it that when it hit, the blade actually warped out, cut over and through. It's a heck of a cutter. Nicely done. Thank you. All right, Ed, you're up. Are you ready? All right, Ed, that's a good clean cut on that pumpkin. You can kind of see what happened. I started compensating for the weight and pulled up and through. The weight factor in me using it is an issue, but definitely sharp, definitely a good cutter. Well done.
It's really hard to say one way or the other right now who could and couldn't win this thing.
Jonathan and Ed, the judges have finished their deliberation, and there can only be one Forged in Fire champion, and that champion is Jonathan. Congratulations, you are a new Forged in Fire champion. Ed, your sword didn't make the cut. Please surrender your blade.
I agree with the judge's decision. His blade was more usable. I made a good blade, he made a little bit better blade. No matter what, I'm still a happy cat.
Jonathan, good job. You are a new Forged in Fire champion, and that's a title that comes with a check for how much money?
$10,000.
$10,000, that's right.
Thank you.
Jonathan, please present your blade to the judges.
I won Forged in Fire. That's pretty awesome. It's not really sunk in yet that I won. I'd love to have one of those grinders, so I might buy some shop tools too. We'll see.
J. Nielsen's War Scythe. This War Scythe was personally created by our very own beast from the East. This War Scythe is a menacing variation on a centuries-old peasant's weapon from Middle-Age Europe. Ready for battle at a moment's notice, farmers would take their scythes from work to war during uprisings, riots, or calls to battle. This weapon uses a long shaft to generate massive power to cut down enemies, while its lethal sharp point could be thrust into infantry and cavalry. This multifaceted scythe features a fork opposite the blade as a brutal piercing element, and a small blade at the bottom of the pole to finish off an opponent. Scythes are represented in pop culture as sinister and ominous weapons symbolizing death, and is most notoriously wielded by the Grim Reaper. Up first, our very own dealer of death, the doer of deadly deeds, the kill test master, Doug Marcaida.
Yeah, he just looks like a murderer. I am really nervous.
All right, Alex. The balance is light, allowing it to be a very fast weapon that you can use middle-hand, long-handed, or for close quarters. Your weapon will kill. All right, Trevor, trick or treat. Treat? Indeed. All right, Trevor, the tip alone penetrates deeply into the gut, and the edges here are sharp enough to, well, make it lose his head. Overall, sir, it will kill. Thank you, sir.
All right, Smiths, welcome to the strength test, the dreaded coffin challenge. I'm gonna take the bones and beat them repeatedly into the blade of your scythe. And Alex, you're locked in and ready to go first. You ready?
Yep.
That's what I want to hear. Alex, you survived. Good job. The only issue I have, you have some slight rolling on the edge, and the head of this moves, so it's not secure anymore. But your edge held up great. Good job.
Thank you.
Hey, Phil and Trevor, Pretty good right now.
Good. We'll see how you feel in a minute. Nice job, Trevor. Held up well. Your edge is still good, nice and sharp. Everything's still tight. Good job.
Thank you.
All right, bladesmiths. This is the sharpest test, the zombie surprise. To test the edge of your weapon, I'm gonna take your scythe and cut through this rope, thereby releasing a surprise.
All right.
Alex, you're up first. Ready?
Certainly.
All right, Alex, it cut easily on the rope. When you're puncturing this, it cuts through and slices. It will cut.
Thank you.
All right, Trevor, your turn. So you ready?
Hell yeah.
All right, Trevor, the edge that you have here lends itself to cut the rope much easier. When you're puncturing, it starts to cut all the way through. Overall, sir, it will cut.
Thank you.
All right, bladesmiths, you guys have done fantastic work, but only one of you can be the Forged in Fire champion, and that champion is Trevor. Congratulations, you are the new Forged in Fire champion. Alex, unfortunately, your blade took some damage in our strength test. You did great work, my friend, but at this time, I have to ask you to please exit the forge.
Ultimately, it came down to the construction. I think I definitely made a blade that can intimidate anyone.
Well, Trevor, the judges all agree you made a damn near perfect Boar Scythe, which has earned you the title of Forged in Fire champion and a check for $10,000. Good job, brother. Come on forward and shake our hands.
I won! Woo! I think the biggest thing I learned was to keep on trying. If something doesn't go your way, don't get upset about it. Just keep moving forward. This was a perfect Halloween experience. I feel like I just went trick-or-treating and I got a pillowcase full of candy.
Blackbeard's infamous Cutlass. Among the most notorious pirates of the 18th century, Blackbeard terrorized Caribbean and Atlantic merchant shipping with his trademark cutlass in hand. Its short but thick curved blade featured a razor-sharp edge that was ideal for hacking and slashing during close-quarters combat while seizing small vessels. In his legendary battle with Captain Robert Maynard in 1718, Blackbeard's cutlass broke Maynard's sword in half with a single blow. Today, Blackbeard's menacing presence and expert swordsmanship can still be seen in the video game Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag.
Bladesmiths, to test the lethality of your cutlass, I'm going to inflict lethal wounds on these ballistic dummies. Jason, you're up first. You ready?
I sure hope so, Doug.
Let's do this. All right, Jason, you got a very big handle here. But at least it's got the swells, it's got an indexing to where I hold on to it, I can tell where the edge is. The weight that you have in this weapon is so light in the sense that I can wield it even around here. You cut the clavicle into the ribs, all the way through the lungs, and definitely it will kill.
All I ever wanted to hear. Made my day.
Seth, you're up next. You ready?
Get some.
All right, Seth, your sword is forward heavy without a balance coming back. I don't know whose shoulder's gonna hurt more. The dummies are mine, but your weapon, sir, will kill.
Thank you.
Test the strength and durability of your swords. I'll be chopping through these bones and then attacking that peg leg. Now remember, this test is not about what your blades do to these targets. It's about what these targets do to your blades. Jason, you're up. Are you ready?
Nope.
The balance of your weapon is really nice, which is surprising because you've made a two-handed cutlass. Your blade held up very well, except for the one little chip, and it's not even a chip, it's a roll. So it didn't blow out. It's a good job.
Thank you, Dave.
All right, Seth, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, Seth. First up, this thing's a beast. It is probably a pound heavier than your competitor's sword. Your blade, I mean, I can run my fingernail down this. I can see a couple of glinting spots, but it really didn't take any damage.
All right, bladesmiths, let's find out if there's any edge left. This is the rope cut and pirate sail slash. To test the edge of your cutlass, I will cut this rope, which will raise the sail, and then I will slash the sail. This is all about what your sword will do to the sail and rope. Jason, you up first. Ready?
Yes, sir.
Alrighty, Jason. Your edge cut through the rope easily and cuts with every part that the edge met on this pirate sail. Overall, sir, your sword will cut.
Awesome.
Seth, how you feeling?
Feeling good. Let's go.
Let's do this. All right, Seth. What are the chances you find a very dull spot on the first cut on the rope? But on the second cut, it found another spot that was sharp. But on the sail, working a heavy sword like this affects my cuts.
Jason, Seth, the judges have tested your weapons and they've made a final decision. Our new Forged in Fire champion is Jason. Congratulations, you're the new Forged in Fire champion. Seth, unfortunately, your blade did not make the cut. Please surrender your blade. Jason, congratulations. You are our new Forged and Fire champion, and that's a title that comes with a bundle of bullion that's worth 10 grand. How you feeling right now?
Come on, that's incredible. Forged and Fire champion!
The Executioner's Sword.
The Executioner's Sword performed its bloody work in 16th century Central Europe. Unlike combat swords, this lethal blade features a straight, double-edged cutting blade with a blunt tip, perfect for swiftly chopping off the heads of criminals. This deadly weapon was used on many aristocratic felons rather than the axe, since it allowed the victim to meet his end in a dignified kneeling position rather than laying face down with his head on the block. While the Executioner's Sword fell out of use in the early 18th century, this gruesome sword is still wielded in the 2019 video game Mordhau.
Bladesmiths, welcome to the kill test. The Executioner's Sword. That word alone just gives you visions of decapitated heads. So to find out what kind of lethal damage your Executioner's Sword can do, I'll deliver some lethal blows on this ballistics dummy. Nathan, is it time?
It's time. Have fun. Holy crap.
Just a little off the top. All right, Nathan. First up, this is a heavy beast. It is so forward heavy that you need two hands to control that. Now, your handle construction is smooth, I'll give you that. But it also feels a little bit rounded over here, where it actually gives me much more control sideways than it does this way. But overall, your weapon, sir, it will kill.
Awesome.
All right, Gunner, your turn. So you ready?
Absolutely.
Let's do this. All right, Gunner, let's talk about your Executioner's Sword over here. Your blade right here has a finer grind, so it makes it a little bit lighter. And the edge that you have here, when it came to that skull, just glided into that. Overall, sir, your Executioner's Sword, it will kill.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, it's time for the strength test, the skull and bone chop. Now, to test the overall construction of your blades, as well as how they feel while they're being used, I'll be chopping into these skulls and that nasty giraffe bone. Nathan, you're up. Are you ready?
Yes, sir. Have fun. Holy giraffe.
All right, Nathan, so right off, man, this thing is heavy. Once you get it moving, it's going, but controlling it's tough. Having said that, your edge held it beautifully. It's still just as sharp as when I started, which is pretty darn sharp. So good job on that.
Thanks. I like sharp things.
Gunner, ready?
What if I said no?
I'd say, you don't watch the show much, do you?
Exactly.
All right, so Gunner, right off, lighter blade, easier to control. A lot of that has to do with the fact that you've got more handle here. Now your blade, it's got some compacting on the edges, but I wouldn't run my finger down this edge. It's still plenty sharp. Nicely done.
Thank you, sir.
All right, bladesmiths, this is the sharpness test, the jackfruit and water jug slice. Nathan, you're up first. You ready?
Yes, sir. Have fun.
All right, let's do this. All right, Nathan. As far as the downward chop, it's a very clean cut. Easy, no resistance whatsoever. Now, when I was cutting, as soon as I met the resistance of the water, it kind of rolled on my hand. But anything that it did have contact with, it was able to cut. Overall, sir, your weapon, it will cut.
Thank you.
All right, Gunner, your turn. So you ready?
Yes, sir, I am.
Let's do this. All right, Gunner. The handle construction you have here is wide and ovoid enough to where when I hold onto it, I can really tell where the edge is, and it's much easier to control a blade like this. In the slice, you can see that cuts nicely. Overall, sir, your weapon, it will cut.
Thank you.
Well, Bladesmiths, only one of you can leave here with the title of Forge and Fire Champion and get that check for $10,000. Now, the judges discussed your blades, and they made a final decision. Today's Forge and Fire Champion is... Gunner, congratulations. Now, Nathan, you fought hard, man, but unfortunately your blade didn't make the cut. I'm gonna have to ask you to please step off the forge floor.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Well, I'm gonna have to find a different way to take my wife to go see Bigfoot, but we're still gonna go.
Well, Gunner, that makes you the Forge and Fire Champion. You just got yourself a check for $10,000. Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys. I just won Forged and Fire.
Feeling good?
I mean, I've never thought I would make it this far from day one. I don't necessarily think that I'm a better smith than any of these other guys. It just worked out in my favor today. As far as the money, after football season ends, my wife and I will probably take a long weekend somewhere.
The Horseman's Axe. Used by mounted knights and armies, the Horseman's Axe became the weapon of choice after body armor made swords less effective. The heavier axe with its concave blade allowed horsemen to strike more effective blows, using a sweeping overhead stroke that penetrated armor. Early depictions of medieval warfare shows the axe cleaving an opponent's helmet, delivering a fatal strike. In the film Sleepy Hollow, the headless horseman wields a horseman's axe.
Bladesmiths, this is the kill test. The Horseman's Axe, it's actually two weapons in one. It's got an edge that can lacerate and chop, and a spike that can penetrate and crush bones. To see what kind of lethal damage your axe will do, I will take your Horseman's Axe and deliver lethal blows on this Ballistics dummy. Mike, you're up first. You ready?
Yes, I am.
As you can see, I'm recovering from an injury. So one of my students will have the satisfaction of testing your weapon.
Has a tendency to roll.
Well, Mike, let's talk about your weapon. Your edge over here is sharp. It lacerated deep into the bowels right here. Your spike definitely caved in all the way into the chest and straight into the heart. The only issue we have is that your handle is a little bit on the rounded side, so there is a tendency to slightly roll. But overall, your weapon will kill.
Thank you.
Alex, you're up next. You ready?
Yes.
Let's do this.
All right. I'm pretty proud of what I created. It's just a little heavy, and that's a bit of a concern going in. Sweet.
Alex, your weapon here is a little bit on the heavy side. But you know what? It is well balanced. The edge of your blade here cut deep into chest cavity, and it broke the bones. Your spike here right into the heart. And of course, on the swing, it pretty much just disemboweled the dummy right there. Your weapon will kill.
Yes, thank you.
Next up is a strength test. Jake?
We know ice can be very brutal on an edge, so I'm going to take your Horseman's axes and repeatedly strike into these large blocks of ice to see how well they hold up. Mike, you're up first. You ready?
Yes, I am.
Well, Mike, unfortunately, we had a serious failure on your axe with this weld point in the junction of the belt hook. Now, Alex, you still have to pass this test. Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. There's only one thing standing between me and a $10,000 check, and it's really big, and it's made of ice.
Alex, your horseman's axe did quite a job on that ice. Everything's still tight, and your edge is still razor sharp.
Thank you.
So, all in all, very nicely done.
Bladesmiths, our weapons tests here are designed to be exceptionally brutal in order to set your weapons apart from one another. Mike, your blade did not survive our strength test. For that reason, I have to ask you to please leave the forge.
Okay. I am disappointed, but when I go home, I'm gonna have a smile on my face. Forged in Fire has risen me from the dead somehow. I will take this forward with me for the rest of my life.
Alex, congratulations. You are the Forged in Fire champion and will be receiving a check for $10,000. Good job.
It's surreal. It's really surreal.
Well, come on over here and shake our hand.
Oh, wow. I can't really fathom like I've won. Like, I won. Definitely tops everything else I've ever done. Being the Forged in Fire champion just shows I've applied what I've always tried to teach others. Never stop learning.
The Sodegarami.
Holy jeez. Oh my God.
One of the most intimidating and versatile Japanese pole weapons, the Sodegarami was part of the key arsenal for samurai police during the 17th century. Featuring lethal spikes and hooks, police were able to capture violent offenders from a distance by using the weapon to latch onto the suspects, stopping them in their tracks. Although primarily used in defense, the sharp spikes along with the spiked butt cap made it a menacing and brutal weapon when in combat. Today, the Sodegarami's devastating use can be seen in the HBO television series Westworld.
All right, bladesmiths, welcome to the kill test. To find out what kind of lethal damage your Sodegarami will do, I will take your weapons and stab and try to snag this ballistics dummy. Rita, you're up first. You ready for this?
Hi.
All right, let's do this. All right, Rita, let's talk about your Sodegarami. The tines you have here penetrates. The hook you have here will rip this person apart. And more importantly, your weapon will kill. All right, Justin, your turn. You ready to have fun?
Yes, sir.
All right, Justin, the tines you have here, it's more of a stabbing tine rather than a grabbing. This is a grabbing weapon, but that hook does grab onto that. Overall, sir, your weapon will kill.
All right, bladesmiths, it's time for the strength test, the dreaded ice block chop. Remember, this is not about what these weapons do to the ice blocks, it's about what those ice blocks do to your weapons. And Rita, you're up first. You get points for theme, I mean. You ready? It doesn't matter, right?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Rita. Got a little bit more of a bend in this one tine here, but everything else is pretty much the way it was going in. Definitely held up, did its job. Good job.
Thank you.
All right, Justin, your turn. You ready?
Yes, I am.
All right, so you survived the strength test. This is a very strong, well-built head for this, but it's built more like a spear than it is for catching. I mean, I'm not sure how effective it would be at snagging the opponent, but it's a devastator. It certainly did the job. Good job.
All right, bladesmiths, welcome to the sharpness test, the Sandman Pierce and Capture. To test the sharpness, I will take your weapon, pierce, and try to control this Sandman. Rita, you're up first. You ready for this?
Yeah.
All right, Rita, the points you have on your tines here definitely penetrate when you thrust into that, but it doesn't slice on the way out or capture as well as it should. Your hook over here did its job. Overall, it will cut and control. All right, Justin, your turn. So you ready?
Yes, I am. Oh. That's not good.
He pulled it out of the socket. Well, Justin, we have a problem.
Yes, sir.
This wasn't pinned, was it?
No.
The impact from all these tests loosened it up. And of course, it came off.
Justin, you brought in a beautifully crafted weapon. However, you've suffered a catastrophic failure in our final test. And unfortunately, you cannot be our Forged and Fire champion.
Congratulations, Rita. Thank you. Awesome. Coming on Forged and Fire, I put my all into it, and I feel like I made a good weapon, but just came up short on a little bit of the fit and finish, and other than that, I'm happy with it.
Rita, congratulations. You are the Forged and Fire champion, and that is the title that comes with a check for $10,000. Congratulations. How do you feel right now? Come on forward and shake our hands. Good job.
It's been a very positive and uplifting experience to be able to do something amazing like this. I hope this will help me become an inspiration to kids, because I can say, look, if you see something and you want to try it, give it a try. Hey, Weeblos, your scout leader is the new Forged and Fire champion. I'm bringing it home. Can I have a group hug, please? Thank you, you guys. Oh, my God.
The 1796 British Light Cavalry Saber.
Jesus.
The 1796 English light cavalry sword was first used by British dragoons in the Napoleonic Wars. Unlike the subtly bowed French cavalry sabers of the era, the English version had a deep curve whose width increased as it reached the tip. Although this design weakened the blade's thrusting capabilities and made every slash heavier and more brutal. Designed to inflict maximum damage during large melees on the battlefield, the saber had the ability to remove heads and limbs with a single stroke. The light cavalry sword is the weapon of the traditional wooden Christmas nutcracker and can be seen at the iconic soldier's side in the latest film adaptation of the Tchaikovsky Nutcracker Ballet, The Nutcracker in the Four Realms.
Bladesmiths, welcome to the kill test. keeping with this Christmas theme, I'm gonna take your weapons and deliver some slashes and chops on this Christmas ham. Jamie, you're up first. You ready for this?
Let's do it.
All right, Jamie. The first thing that I noticed is the extreme weight. Automatically, I can feel the stress on my hand. It wants to fall forward. Now let's talk about the blade. This is a chopper that gets work done in 3 chops. Your weapon, sir, will kill.
Thank you.
All right, Boyd, were you naughty or nice? Because it's your turn.
I don't know. We'll see.
All right, Boyd, you nailed the weight. This proves that a light, sharp blade is just as deadly as a heavier sword. Overall, sir, your nutcracker saber will kill. Thanks.
All right, gentlemen, it's time for the strength test. Now, to test the strength of your sabers, I will be chopping into this ice block. Jamie, you're up first. You ready?
I am.
The biggest issue I have with your blade is its weight. But for this test, it's a strong blade. It held up, so good job.
Thank you.
All right, Boyd, you ready?
I don't know.
All right, so, Boyd, now, your blade's still sharp. It still has a perfect edge. Didn't take any damage that way. But we did pick up a bit of a warp towards the tip. I mean, it's definitely an issue. It's not so far out that it wouldn't cut. Everything else is still tight and together. Good job.
Yes, sir. All right, bladesmiths, now it's time to find out if there's any edge left in your weapon. This is the sharpness test, the Christmas tree trim. To find out how sharp your edges are, I will trim this tree in the Mercaida family Christmas tree tradition. Jamie, you're up first. Are you ready for this?
Trim away.
All right, Jamie, let's talk about your edge here. It is a little bit on the obtuse side, and it's still heavy. But on every stroke, I'm able to trim this tree. Overall, sir, it will cut.
Thank you.
All right, Boyd, it's your turn. Are you ready to do some Christmas tree trimming?
You bet.
All right, Boyd. So your edge is sharp, and the weight that you have for this, I didn't have to reset for every cut that I did. I just go up, and cut. Overall, sir, it'll cut. Thanks.
Jamie had issues with weight. I was good with weight, but my blade bent during the strength test. Right now, we're pretty even.
So basically, it's down to a heavy blade and a bent blade, and I am just shaking in my boots.
All right, gentlemen, the judges and I have had a quick conference, and they've made their final determination about which of you is the Forge and Fire champion and who has to leave the Forge. The bladesmith leaving the forge is Jamie. Now, unfortunately, Jamie, your blade did not make the cut. That's because it's very heavy and unwieldy, and for that reason, I have to ask you to please leave the forge.
I feel really disappointed, but I'm not surprised at all. I know how heavy my sword was. I just wish I could have done better.
Boyd, congratulations. You are the Forged in Fire champion, and that is a title that comes with a check for $10,000. Merry Christmas, my friend. Anything to say to the world?
Merry Christmas.
All right, my friend, come on over and shake our hand.
I'm really happy the way that the sword turned out. I was a little nervous when I saw it take that bend, but I couldn't ask for a better performance out of it. $10,000 is a great Christmas gift to me. Yeah, it's going to be exciting. My son will be off the wall probably for the next month and a half.
General George Washington's lion-headed Cuttoe. One of only 2 swords worn by General George Washington during the Revolutionary War, the lion-headed Cuttoe was Washington's trusted sidearm during early American engagements. He was proud that the weapon was made in America, having been custom forged by a bladesmith in Philadelphia. Lethal in battle, the sword was designed for rapid cuts and brutal thrusts to take down an opponent. In the famous painting, Washington Crossing the Delaware, artist Emanuel Leutze places a more refined weapon at the general's left side, which he did not acquire until several years later. In reality, the sword carried by Washington on that fateful crossing was likely his lion-headed Cuttoe.
All right, veterans, welcome to the keel test. To find out what kind of lethal damage your weapon will do, I will take your weapon and deliver killing blows to this big carcass. Tyler, you're up first. Ready? Okay, just check.
I'm ready.
All right, Tyler, your handle construction, just right. Your edge is very sharp. Overall, sir, this saber will keel. Perfect. All right, Gene, your turn, sir. You ready?
Let's do this, Doug.
All right, Gene, this is a heavy sword, very forward heavy. But when you have a forward heavy blade that you're hitting and meets resistance, a cylindrical, almost circular handle makes it twist in my hand. So probably this is the reason why the chain came off. But your blade is sharp, it will keel.
All right, gentlemen, December 25th, 1776, George Washington leads the Continental Army across a frozen Delaware River to attack the Hessians at Trenton, New Jersey. And he probably didn't chip his way through the ice, but that's not going to keep us from our strength test, the ice block chop. Tyler, you're up first. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so Tyler, your chain fell off, but there's no damage on your edge. Your handle's comfortable, other than the chain. You nailed it.
Thanks.
Good job. All right, Gene.
Do it.
All right, Gene, your blade's edge is still there. And still short. The issue is the rest of your chain fell off, and it's picked up a bend. I have less issue with that and more issue with this polished handle. It's just hard to hold on to. But it is strong, and it does have an edge. So, good job.
Hurrah. All right, veterans. Our sharpness test today is the Hessen charge. This is all about what your edge will do to these dummies. Tyler, you're up first. You ready for this?
Yep.
All right, Tyler, the weight of your weapon does prevent me from going very fast, but you have a very sharp edge all the way through. Your weapon, sir, it will cut.
Thank you.
All right, Gene, it's your turn, sir. You ready?
Let's do this, Doug.
All right, Gene, to be able to maintain a good grip on this, more of the cuts I create are more impact as opposed to a slash where it cuts all the way through. So you have some cuts here that are more nicks, deep nicks, because you have a very sharp edge. And for this test, sir, your weapon will cut.
Awesome.
It takes a lot of guts to get out there and compete. I'm glad I did it, and to come this far is pretty amazing.
I definitely got the competition that I was expecting from Gene, but I think it's going to come down to the wire between the both of us at the end of this.
Tyler, Gene, first of all, I want to thank you both for your service. You're both champions in my mind. You've already won your branch divisions, but there can only be one Battle of the Branches champion. And you'll walk out of here with a check for $50,000. And that champion is Tyler. Congratulations. You are the Battle of the Branches Forged in Fire champion. Gene, your blade didn't make the cut. Please surrender your blade.
There's a lot of Marines out there, and there's a lot of great guys in the Marine Corps. And so for me to stand here and represent them is pretty humbling.
Tyler, congratulations. You overcame every obstacle set in front of you. You beat out all the other Smiths, and now you're the Battle of the Branches Forged in Fire champion. That's a title that comes with a check for $50,000, and most importantly, bragging rights. Good job, my brother. Please present your blade to the judges.
I'm super excited. When this whole thing started, I had no idea how it was all going to turn out. Feels good to have represented the Army. The fact that I just won $50,000 is starting to set in. I'm Sergeant Tyler Hackbarth, and I'm the new Battle of the Branches champion.
The Irish ring-hilted sword. Dating back to the 12th century, the Irish ring-hilted sword was a classic European weapon with a blade reaching lengths of up to 40 inches. The broad double-edged weapon featured a distinctive ring pommel that was key for counterbalancing its weight, allowing for swift and deadly cuts. Commonly used by the elite mercenaries known as Gallowglass, the well-balanced sword complemented their superior fighting techniques that were revered throughout Ireland in the Middle Ages. Although warriors such as the Gallowglass no longer exist, the weapon's symbolism is still represented in popular culture today and can be seen on the television show Game of Thrones, where one of the most feared characters, the Mountain, wields his ring-hilted sword.
All right, bladesmiths, this is the kill test. To find out what kind of lethal damage your Irish ring-hilted swords can do, I will take your weapon and deliver killing blows on this feral boar, Carcass. Jason, you're up first. You ready?
I am.
Let's do this. All right, Jason. First up, when I grab onto it, it feels good in the hands. Good fit. Now, swinging this is sweet. You have a very sharp edge that cuts easily into this wild boar carcass. It will kill. Good job, Jason.
Thank you.
All right, Sean, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Let's do this. All right, Sean, let's talk about your weapon right here. First up, when I grabbed onto the handle, it's got a good feel to that. I like that you put some grooves in there because it fits nicely to where my hand locks into it, and I get a very secure fit. A little heavier, but the weight helps push and cut into this wild boar carcass. And most of all, it will kill.
Thank you, sir.
Good job. Ben?
Welcome to the strength test, the dreaded ice chop. To test the strength and durability of your swords, as well as their overall construction, I'm going to be chopping mercilessly into this unforgiving block of ice. Remember, this test is all about what that ice does to your ring-hilted swords and not what your swords do to the ice. Jason, you're up first. You ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Good. Well, Jason, first things first, the warp, I think that it being off-center made it rotate in my hand. But the balance on the sword, as you can see, is beautiful. It's comfortable to wield, and your sword held up. Well done.
Thank you.
Sean, you're up. How you feeling?
Nervous but excited.
All right, let's do it. Well, Sean, the weight on this is a little tip heavy. I would have liked a little bit more counterbalance on it, but that being said, it's still a lot of fun to swing. Your edge held up beautifully. Everything's right and tight. Well done.
Thank you, sir.
Next up is the sharpness test, and for that, I give you to Dave.
Okay, gentlemen, now to test the sharpness of your blade, I'll be cutting through this sugar cane. I'll use both edges of your blade. Now, unlike the strength test, this is all about what your blades do to that target. We want to see those cuts nice and clean, not canes broken or pushed out of the way. Jason, you're up first. You ready?
I am.
Okay. All right, Jason, your handle construction, you can see how square that is right there. When that was in my backhand cut, I actually got into those canes and then it rolled. Your tang is now kind of kicking off to one side. So that probably happened as that blade caught that last cane and yanked down. But it's definitely a sharp blade, really nice. Sean, you're up. Are you ready?
Yes, sir. Okay. First up, your handle construction, I like a lot. It's not rotating in my hand. It's a heavier sword, but cuts are clean. It's definitely a sharp blade. I like that. Well done. Thank you.
Jason, Sean, the judges' deliberation is complete. They've made their final decision. The next Forged in Fire champion is Sean. Congratulations, you're the new Forged in Fire champion. Jason, unfortunately, your blade didn't make the cut. Please surrender your blade.
I would have liked to have won. But I'm proud of what I've done. I mean, throughout this whole series of tests, I made a strong, sharp blade and it performed equally as well. So, I'm happy with it.
Sean, congratulations. You're the new Forged and Fire champion, and that's a title that comes with a check for $10,000. How do you feel about that?
Doesn't suck.
No, it does not. Sean, please present your blade to the judges.
This whole experience, it's pushed me physically, it's pushed me mentally. Parts of it have been pretty brutal, but thank you guys. And I wouldn't trade a minute of it for anything. I've had the time of my life.